15 definition of terms in institutional correction. One is punishment. Punishment is defined as the redress that the state uh, takes against an offending member. Next is death penalty. This was affected by burning, boiling in oil, breaking at the wheel, drawing and hanging, etc. Next is physical torture. This was the so-called corporal punishment, which was affected by mutilation, maiming, whipping, etc. etc. Next is penalties. These penalties are is perpetual penalties. The perpetual penalties, the convict is pardoned after 30 years unless the chief executive consider as unworthy for pardon by reason or conduct or a serious cause. Next is a reclusion temporal. This is 12 years and 1 day to 20 years. Prison mayor and temporary disqualification. This is 6 years and 1 day to 12 years, except when disqualification is an accessory penalty, in which case its duration it's that of the principal penalties. Next is prison correction, suspension, and this is 6 months and 1 day to 6 years, except when the suspension is an accessory penalty, in which case its duration in that of the principal penalty. Arresto mayor. This is 1 month and 1 day to 6 months. Arresto menor. This is 1 day to 30 days. Bond to keep the peace. Discretionary with the court. Next is penology. Classical school. Among its proponent include Beccaria and Voltaire. Maintained the doctrine of psychological hedonism, that the individual calculation pleasured and pains in advance of action and regulates his conduct by the result of his calculation. Next is neoclassical. Arose at the time of the French Revolution, and the personnel immediately following maintained that while the classical doctrine was correct in general, it should be modified in the pains, modified in the certain details, since children and lunatic cannot calculate pleasures and pains that should not be regarded as criminal or the punish. Next is the positive. Denied individual responsibility and reflected an essential non-positive reaction to crime in criminality. Next is the prison. Barbaros were the form and exclusion of early punishment. The last is the Walnut Street Jail. Originally constructed as the detention jail in Philadelphia.